Okay, so we're going to look back in depth at JavaScript. We've gone over the very basics. Now we're going to take our time. I'm going to sound like a broken record. I'm going to repeat things. I'm going to say things very slowly and repetitive, like I'm talking to myself, which is an idiot. So I need to repeat stuff slowly, and I'm going to do that. And that's the point of these videos, is to repetition. Learn stuff through repetition, stating the obvious, reminders, repeating, all that kind of beautiful stuff. This time we're going to talk about variables. So up until 2015, there was one way to declare a variable. Now, what is a variable? A variable is a container of information so that we assign. So let's just show you an example. So you got var. That is how you declare a variable, using the var. And up until 2015, this was the only way that you could declare a variable. Now, usually you give the variable a name. So let's just say, we'll call this one animals. Oh, Jesus, look at this spelling here. Animals. And then you assign animals to a value. To do that, you do equals. Pretty straightforward. So variable animals equals, we're going to do dog. So this is made a variable here. The variable is called animals, and the value of animals is dog. Okay, so we can console log that variable. So let's console log. Now we don't use any brackets because we're not console logging a string. We're console logging a variable. So we really just enter the name of that variable. So if we run that, it prints dog because we're console logging this variable. That variable is assigned to dog, so it prints dog. Jesus, what am I doing here? So that's what's going on there. Now, let's just get rid of that because I'm messing it up anyway. Now, since 2015, there are other ways you can declare variables as well. There's the let, which is L-E-T, and there's the const, which is C-O-N-S-T, which is short for constant. Now, there's some differences, but effectively the differences between var and the other two, let and const, it has to do with its scope, which we can go into later. But effectively, var is function scoped, where let and const is block scoped. So that helps us. There are limitations to var. You know, some people will say you want to use let unless you really want to lock in, const locks in your variable. So, you know, var really isn't used as much now. Some people would tell you that var isn't really used much now. Let is the go-to way to declare a variable. And then const is if you want to make sure that the variable doesn't get changed. Now let's go into detail about what we're talking here. So let, just like var, we're declaring a variable. We're going to do, again, just to make it easy, and my spelling is bad again, animals equals dog. So we're doing the same thing. Now if I console log that variable, animal, flippity-doo, animals. Now, same thing though. If you run it, it'll print dog. It's the same as before. It's just got to do with the way later on when you're dealing with scopes, that's the benefit of having the let. But here's something else we can do with let. So let's just drop that console log down a little bit lower there. Now, after let, we're going to call that variable, and we're going to reassign it. So we're going to use the equals again and reassign it fish. Okay, now when we console log, we've got the console log here for this variable, and when we run it, it is now fish. We've actually changed it. We declared the let variable animals and assigned it dog. We called it again here and reassigned it fish. So when we console log it down here, it's fish. So we can actually reassign variables. However, the good thing about const is if you want to, especially when you're dealing with maths and you want a specific formula that cannot be changed, const cannot be reassigned. So const animals equals dog. Console log animals, run it, and you've got dog. Okay, let's call that variable and let's reassign it fish. Now watch what happens when we do this. It actually throws up an error. And the error is that you cannot assign a constant variable. So we can't reassign it like we've done here. So it's throwing up an error. It simply won't allow us to do it. We've got to remove that for it to run properly. So you cannot reassign a constant. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So that's essentially how to create variables. As we go on, we'll do more of that. But essentially, that's going to come in handy when we're doing things like functions and loops and all that kind of stuff. So when we do the bigger stuff, it's nice to have variables for different operations. Okay, now we're going to do maths assignment operators. So let's just come up with a little thing here. Let's assign W. We're going to do the variable which equals 4. So W equals 4. Now W, we're going to remember, because it's a let, we can reassign it. Because we've declared this as a let, we can reassign it. So let's reassign it. Equals W plus 1. So essentially, as you might have guessed, that's 4 plus 1. So when we console log that, when we console log W, you would expect 5. And we've got 5. Now there is a short way of doing this part here, using maths assignment operators. So how do we do that? Essentially, we get rid of the first part of it, the W equals. We can remove that, and we just put the equals directly after the plus sign. So we're console logging it again. So do this, and it's still 5. So essentially we've added 1 to this variable here. Now let's also do it in using numbers, okay? So let's, to make it a little bit clearer, let's do it using numbers. So let 4 equal 4. Just going to declare a few variables. 5 equal the number 5. Let 3 equal the number 3. So we're just declaring a few variables here. Let 2 equal the number 2. So, okay, so we're going to, let's console log all these. So console log the variable 4. Copy and paste might be a little bit quicker here. So copy. And then we'll just change them to each one. So we've got a variable called 4, we've got a variable called 5, we've got a variable called 3, and we've got a variable called 2. So if we run that, it's got the numbers. All these variables equal a number. Now, between these two guys, let's use some maths assignment operators. So let's do, remember, because it's a let, we can reassign it. So 4 plus equals 2. So what does that do? That we're taking the variable 4, F-O-U-R, and we're using this assignment operator to add 2. So when it console logs here, it should add 2 up here to 6. Let's run it. 6. See that? Just change that one there to 6. Let's do the same. We'll do 5. This time we do a minus equals. Minus equals 2. This is 5. This should eliminate 2. We run it. Look at that. It changes to 3. Let's do the variable called 3. And we're going to do divide equals. We're going to divide 3 by, oh, this is tricky, by 2. 1.5, there you go. So it divided 3 into 2, and it did give us a float, which is nice, which is 1.5. And then we've got the variable 2, TWO, and we're going to multiply asterisk equals 5. We run that, and we got a 10 because the variable 2 equals 2, and when we put the asterisk and equals, which is times equals 5, it times 2 by 5 and logs it up here. So it's a little bit fiddly, but if you do it over and over again, it begins to make a lot of sense. But that's just a very easy way to sort of make it clear and make it make sense. Now, let's have a look now at increment and decrement operators here. So what an increment and decrement does, it's a very quick way of adding 1 or subtracting 1. So let's just, again, declare fish to equal 4. So let's say we've got 4 fish, right? Expressed in that variable. And we've also got dog, variable dog equals 2. So we've got 2 dogs, okay? Now, let's console log it again. Fish, console log fish, console.log dog, and it will obviously run that. It will give us the numbers of how many fish we've got and how many dogs we've got. Now, between that we'll do increments. So what we're going to do is get fish and simply do plus plus, a double plus, right together, close together like that. Fish, fish. That adds 1 more to fish. So fish will go from 4 to 5. So if we run that, see up there, it's changed to 5. And we want 1 less dog, so dog minus minus. That will reduce dogs by 1. Run that, now we've got 1 dog. Run it again, eh? Minus minus. 0, because it's run that this let variable here has passed the dog decrement operator twice, and there's only 2. So by the time I got down there to the console log, there was 0. So it's console logged 0. So that's how we use increment and decrement operators. Just a quick one there. You're going to need that for loops later on. You need to know that for loops. Now let's do string concatenation with a variable. So let dog equal terrier. A terrier. Is it terrier? Yeah, terrier. Now we can add, so that's a variable. We can add strings and variables. So if we console.log and we have a string, so in the string I own a, we can do plus, and then we can put in the variable, which is dog. Now if we run that, I own a terrier, it's basically console logged this string plus this variable, and this variable is terrier, which is console logged I own a terrier. So you can concatenate strings and variables. One more thing I want to show you is called interpolation. Interpolation. So this is a way of inserting inserting variables into a string using temperate literals. Now let's just, sounds a bit complicated, but it's not. Instead of using commas, you need to use backticks. Okay, so let's delete that. So backticks, okay, so they're not commas. We're going to go with backticks this time. which work the same way. They kind of work as commas, but the only difference is it's going to allow us to insert a variable into a string. So I own a, and then I can put the variable dog there. How do I do that though? Inside those backticks, I do the $sign and the curly braces. Inside the curly braces is where you can interpolate or insert that variable. So we do dog, the variable dog, and now it will print it just like a string. So it prints, I own a terrier. Let's run that. And there you go, I own a terrier. This is really important to learn and really good to learn. So if you learn that, that's going to come in handy when you've got a lot of variables and you're dealing with strings. I'm going to show you one more thing on this video. It's kind of an odd one. You probably wouldn't use it that much, but maybe you would, who knows, but it's kind of a little bit obscure. But what we're going to do is we're going to declare a variable, let space equal stars. And then we're going to console log space. And obviously, as you would probably figure out, it logs stars. There is an operator called typeof, which is literally the two words joined together. typeof. No capitals, all lowercase. And if we pop that before the typeof operator, before the variable, it's going to print what type of variable it is, whether it's, oh well, let's just run it and I'll show you. Look, string. This variable is a string. Stars is obviously a string. So when you console log typeof space, what type of variable is it? It console logs the answer string. If we change this to a number, 7, now space equals a number. Typeof, this is the variable. It's asking, is it a string or a number? Now we run it, it's a number. So you can see when you console log, you can put typeof there and figure out whether this variable is a number or a string. So let's end that there. That's enough for there for now. And we'll come back next time and we'll dig a little bit deeper.